Let's talk about some things. I know last week we talked about some processes. We talked about broken to be reborn, broken to be reborn. And the different cycles and processes that life takes us through as it's breaking us down in various different situations, and why that happens, and what happens when we're broken down, and the reason that it's important to allow the process to take place. You guys see that awesome view back there? Let me see. Can you guys see that? Man, that's beautiful. Decided to come out and hang out at the park a little bit, or at least by the water. I am a water sign, so I needed some water today. Some water, which was refreshing, and I got a protein shake. I was busy. I need to fuel the machine. All right, back to what we was talking about. So the different various processes that happen in each stage as we go through these situations, and when we show up in a situation, now what needs to happen? What do I need to do to make the best of the situation and to be able to move forward positively? I think it's about to start raining on me, so we're going to have to cut this one short. But one of the things that's powerful is to be able to get a grip. Like my title said, you got to get a grip. When something happens and you show up in a situation of life, you got to get a grip, all right? We already know, hey, we're there, we're in an uncomfortable situation, things are happening, but get a grip, all right? Stop. While you're in the midst of the storm, it's very powerful that people have to understand. And I was watching a video clip the other day, and it really hit home for me that when we find ourselves in certain situations, if we react negatively, if we react from without thinking about what's going on, then we're going to catch ourselves up in a very vicious cycle. But we have to, what's up, Eldina? We have to be able to catch ourselves in a situation and stop and OODA loop that thing. OODA loop is a process that we use in the military. And in the midst of battle, in the midst of strategic operations, we talk about the OODA loop, O.O.D.A. That stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Whoever can do that the fastest in a battle will likely win the battle, and whichever side does that will be able to win the war. All right, so we got to OODA loop that process: observe, orient, decide, and act. And so when we make decisions, we got to be able to get a grip in order to make the best decision. All right, get a grip on what's going on, make a good informed decision, and move forward. All right, let time work for you. Don't take too long. Don't react too fast, but make a responsible decision, make a good informed choice, and then do what you can based off of the best information that you have at that time. If you don't, you can catch yourself up in a cycle and it'll be problematic for you. All right, so we want to be able to do those things. The weather is going to cut this one short today, but let time work for us. All right, time is like soil. It's going to plant what's manifested in it. So make sure that we plant the right things in that time when we're getting a grip, when we're understanding what's going on. Plant positive energy. Be around people that are going to instill positive messages in you. Do audio books, read positive things, think positive as best as possible. Transition that energy, shift that energy, because it's very difficult when we're in tough situations sometimes to respond positively. However, if we take a second, we call it the pregnant pause. If we take a pregnant pause and figure out what is going to be the best action to move forward, it allows us to go through that OODA loop process. You know what? I'm going to do this in the rain because I don't mind water. So I like water. In the Marine Corps, we have a saying, if it ain't raining, we ain't training. And so this is boot camp. Life is tough, and we got to go through it. We're going to do what we're going to do. All right, and so we're going to get through it. A little bit of water ain't going to hurt nobody. I ain't made of sugar and spice and everything nice, so I ain't going to melt. All right? So let time work for us. Plant positive things. Time's like soil. Whatever you plant in it, it's like the ether. Whatever you plant in it, it's like what's inside of us. It's like our mind. It's like the subconscious. Whatever you plant in it, it doesn't care what you plant in it. But what you plant in it is going to magnify. It's going to allow it to bloom however you fertilize it and however you nurture it. Whatever you plant in it is going to bloom. If you plant something there, whether it's negative or positive, keep in mind it's going to bloom. But what's also as important is the fertilizer that we're using, the information, the emotional input, the not only the emotional input, but the mental input, the information. What are we ingesting and digesting? When we ingest something and we digest it, the body's going to respond or react to it. So it's the same way, just like the earth, the atmosphere, all the things that we put in it, there's an equal opposite reaction or response. Like I said, as above, so below. And so we got to be mindful of that when we're utilizing time to our advantage, or we can use time poorly as well. And so one thing I really wanted to hit on, and I made a strong note of this in my notes, is to make sure that when we're utilizing time, that we make sure that we use it to our best advantage, because it's very difficult, like I said earlier, sometimes to make a positive decision to move us forward progressively. But if we don't get a grip in that moment, we'll catch ourselves up in a very, very bad cycle. All right. So make sure that we're putting in the positive things that's going to allow us to do that. All right. And that's what the Justice League is for. The Justice League is for everyone that wants to join to bring positive and powerful information to build and edify one another. It's an ethereal connection, and not only an ethereal connection, but a real world and real life community and connection amongst people that don't want anything from each other except to see each other succeed. And that's very powerful, because my acronym for team is what I try to do everything in team aspect with regard to any time I'm doing something with a team or anything that can positively benefit other people. Is together, everyone accomplishes more. Together, everyone accomplishes more. And so utilizing that acronym is one of the main focuses and one of the most powerful things about the Justice League. Everyone can prosper if we come together and do so. Everyone can grow strong and positive if we just come together and do so. It just takes a choice. And a lot of times people don't feel like there's someone out there that's willing to connect with them and join with them. And also we have to be mindful of, when we're trying to connect, are we bringing something negative or positive? All right, are we bringing something negative or positive to the table and we don't know it? Which into projections, and I talked a little bit about that last week. But be mindful of how we're using time in that OODA loop cycle so that we can move forward in a positive manner. All right. The quality of soil, I talked about that we're planting things, and also matters. How is it possible to plant something positive in poorly fertilized ground? I don't think people really realize that. People expect a lot of return on something when what they're putting inside is not really good. It's not nurturing. We have to be mindful of things that we watch on television, the people that we listen to, the things that we read. And here's one thing that's very powerful: the music that we listen to. If we constantly listening to ratchet music, what do you think is going to happen when you get in a situation? You're going to act ratchet. And people think that's real. And people talk about that, keeping it real. Why do we think that came about? It's because people listen to that crap, keeping it real. That's pretty much keeping it wrong. And so we got to be mindful of what we're listening to, because sound is very, very powerful. Sound has the ability to give life or to destroy. All right. And so, hey, what's going on, Missouri? Smooth, you must know me from different parts of the world, because a lot of people in the States don't know me as that, unless they've been overseas with me or know me in that mode. But thank you and hello. But let's be mindful of what we're putting in. What we put in ourselves really determines the inner quality of who we are. I did a call when I was doing daily calls. It was called the Daily Dose of Power and Edification, the Daily Dope. And I did one on what you put in is what you're going to get out. So it's very important to be mindful of what we put in is going to either build us up or destroy us. It's going to determine the DNA of what we are and who we are. All right. You can't get an orange off an apple tree. And so if someone is constantly putting crap into their body to in regard to knowledge and music and information, then you're going to get crap out, and you'll be able to see it inside of them. Now, be mindful, that's not a judgment. Okay, that's not a judgment. If, like I say, if you're driving down the street and you see a stop sign, it's red, it's got 4 letters on it, they white, and the sign is red, and it says stop, that's not a judgment. It's just saying it's a stop sign, and I acknowledge that. Okay, I have to acknowledge it and be aware and identify it. Okay, you got to identify people and how they are. Identify things that we're putting inside of us. Identify if things are positive for us or not positive for us. This is called getting a grip. All right, observing, orienting, making a decision, and acting. And we'll talk about acting a little bit later on, because a lot of times people want to be in alignment, and they want to know, how can I be in alignment? All right, and I have a thing that I talk about with regard to being in alignment, and everything supports itself. Your purpose, your mission, and your assignment. Your greater purpose, whatever your desired end state for being here in this place, in this space, in this dimension, on this earth. What is your purpose? Or let's break it down to something even smaller. What is your immediate purpose? What is an immediate goal that you want to do? Does that build into your overall life purpose and who you are? And so what is your mission to make that? What mission are you fulfilling right now to make that purpose come true? Are you doing the things that's going to help you? Are you looking into information? Are you seeking wise counsel? Are you seeking counsel from people who know exactly what it is that you're trying to do, and so on and so forth? I get counsel all the time. And be mindful, all the time, wise counsel doesn't always feel good, but it's not about how we feel all the time. It's about what's right, and not necessarily who's right, but what's right, so that I can move forward and be in alignment. So my purpose is supported by my mission. The mission that I'm doing right now, how does it support my purpose? And then my assignment. What little things am I doing, that easy button, every day accomplish something for your goals and for yourself? All right, what am I doing today in this little assignment that's going to fulfill that mission, that's going to fulfill my overall purpose? So even when you look down the ladder, it supports, everything supports in a right on top of one another, so that there's the most support necessary for that structure. And then when you look up, everything is properly aligned going up with the most amount of support and strength for that structure of whatever it is you're trying to do. So be mindful. Purpose, mission, assignment. That was a freebie. All right. But be mindful of how we use time. And then the process of time. Let it take process. We got to be patient. Sometimes we don't want to be patient. We don't want to be patient. It's important to understand that time is not just a linear measurement of units of space that's enacted in. Time is something that's in depth. Time is a tool. Time can be used so very powerfully or so very weakly. Time is a tool, and it has depth. Remember, time is the canvas in which we paint life's masterpiece on. And so, hello, Pineapple 88. Time is a canvas in which we paint our life's masterpiece on. And so, one, be mindful that time is just not a ticking hand going around a clock, or minutes that flash every time an increment passes. Time is very important, and it's a tool. It's a powerful tool that we can use to help us move forward, that support us, that help us grow, that help us develop, that help us move forward, that help us connect if we use time wisely. Time, that's very powerful. Time also allows us to connect with one another. And not physically as well, just only physically, but in ethereal space as well. So be mindful that time is just not a measurement of states of being. Time is what we make of it. Time is a tool. Time is life. Time is purpose. Time is power. Time is something that we're all in one way, shape, form, or another. And if we learn to capitalize on it and use it to our best benefit, some very, very awesome things can happen for us. All right. So we talked about that. We talked about the OODA loop. Once we figure out, okay, we got a grip on this thing. Now, I showed up. This decision I made brought me here. What am I going to do? Now act. Actually, let's go back to decide. Talking about decisions. Be mindful of the decisions that we have to make. And not only that, don't be upset at yourself for the decisions. What's going on, Original Baylor? How you doing today, woman of God? So don't be upset at ourselves for decisions that we made that brought us to where we're at. Unless you made a reckless decision. Unless you made a careless decision. If you made a reckless and careless decision, yeah, you should probably take some time, dwell on that, and be upset at yourself. All right? But if you made a decision that brought you here to a tough situation, or you're in life, or you need to make a decision, and you've made it, don't be upset at yourself for making that decision based off the best information you had. I'll be transparent. I made some decisions that put me in some relationships, and I made those decisions based off the best information that I had. All right. Now, when things didn't end up the way that I hoped and expected they would, because I agreed to some expectations that I should not have, and I made decisions faster than I should have based off of, again, blind faith, which are some agreements that I made according to religion. It caused me to put myself in some situations that I ended up being upset at myself for. Now, it wasn't until that I really got sincere with myself, and I got in that mirror and I looked at myself, and I had some real tough conversations with myself. And when I had those conversations with myself, I was able to say, hey, you made the decision based off the best information you had. Why are you emotionally tying yourself down to something that you really tried to act rightfully by, and to someone that you did the best that you could by? Don't do it. Don't do it. Allow it to let go, and let go. When you let go of those things, and when you look at yourself in the mirror and accept what happened and what you did based off of the best information you had possible and the best intention you had in mind, then you can accept that, and then you can let it go, because then now you've dealt with it and you've accepted it. There's a difference. You've accepted it and you're not suppressing it. When you suppress things, they go beneath the surface and they begin to rise later on, and then we project those things that we have going on underneath the surface. We project that onto other people. So we don't want to project those things onto other people. We have to deal with it, acknowledge it, accept it. We don't have to like it. There's a difference, but we can accept it. Accepting it allows us to be mindful that, hey, I made the best decision based off of the love that I had, based off of the love I have for myself, based off of being true, based off of being honest, or based off of just moving too fast. I was moving too fast. I was reckless. I was careless. I didn't give it enough time. Here we go with that time thing again. Use time. Time will work to your benefit. That's why time exists. For people that say time is just a linear measurement of states of being, that teaches us that we really just don't know how powerful time is and what the true impact of time is. So be mindful of that, and don't tie yourself to emotional decisions that you made, or to the result of those decisions, if you made the best choice possible. Because one, you're human. Dr. G, what's happening? Much love to you, bro. You made the best decision possible. And when you make the best decision possible, you fulfill an agreement with yourself. That is one of the best agreements. If you've read the book, The 4 Agreements, or you've listened to the audio, you know what I'm about to say. Do your best. Just simply do your best. That's all you can ask of yourself. That's all you can expect of yourself. And that is an expectation that you should have of yourself. Do your best. And it will work out the way it's going to work out. All right, it's going to work out the way it's going to work out. So going back to making those decisions and then acting. When we act off of the best decision that we've had moving forward, now don't get caught up. Okay, I decided, I made this decision, I'm going to go left and I'm going to go right at the corner, all right, down the road. Because there may be something down the road that you can't see. The 48 Laws of Power talks about planning ahead. Planning all that you can. planning to the fullest extent that you possibly can. Leave nothing to chance. Plan as best you can. However, be mindful that things may change. Plans have to change because things change. And life has an input on what we do, on what we say. All right? So, while the decision and the choice are ours, life will give us what we want, but life will also throw challenges based on the decisions that we make. So don't be so caught up in one course of action that you can't say, hey, you know what? I got to make a choice. I got to go left or right. But when you get down there, you made the left and you're about to go right, but there's a roadblock. Something's in the way. Okay, I might have to go a little bit further. I might have to backtrack. I might have to go left again because I can't go right. You keep in mind the desired end state, the purpose, mission, the assignment, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. You might have to go left a couple more times, to go right a couple times, to make another right, to go even further route to get to where you got to go. But you got to take time and plan that thing out and look at it the best way possible. Ron, TLC, what's happening? Event Queen and Ms. Rose, love, light, and blessings to you all. But yes, be mindful of those things. Be fluid like water. That's why I like water. Take a look at that water. All right. Water, I want you to realize water is the most powerful force on earth. It's the most powerful, physically tangible and intangible force on earth. It can either come crashing down and destroy, or it can be gentle as it is, as we see it, and just lay. It can either build up and bust through, or it can find a way around. It can evaporate and come down hard. It can evaporate and sprinkle. But water is the most powerful, tangible force on this earth. And so be mindful of how water is and use it to our advantage. It's an example. We have examples in life all around us. Look at the relationship that the water has with the earth. Look at the relationship that the trees have with the ground. These relationships are made perfect. We, as humans, mess those things up. God made relationships perfect. We screw them up. So we shouldn't screw them up. Why do we screw up relationships with other things and with other people and with the very thing that we need the most? The earth gives us so much. And it's just teaching us an example that if we live in harmony, balance will come. Balance doesn't create harmony. Harmony creates balance. In my opinion, it's just my humble opinion. All right. And so one from the other, it's called synergy and relationship. All right. So I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I feel the divine creator saying, wrap it up. I don't want to talk your ear off and talk unnecessarily and say things that are unnecessary for me to say. So don't get caught up in our emotions when we make a decision. If it works out, be super happy and put yourself in places where people are going to be happy for you. But if people are not happy for you, make sure you watch those actions and just govern yourself accordingly. All right? Don't get caught up in those things regardless of how they feel. All right? Be mindful of how things feel. You know, the other day something happened and I had an emotional feeling about something, and I stopped. I was transparent with myself. I said, hey, why am I feeling this? What was the trigger and why was it the trigger? And I faced it because I wanted to be mindful that if I was projecting that, okay, I needed to deal with something that's inside of me. But I faced it and I found out that, okay, I was just looking at something a certain way and I wasn't projecting onto anybody. That just something made me feel some type of way. And sometimes as an empath, I know I feel universal energy and the weight of things happening in the world. But we got to be mindful of that. And so I faced the emotional thing, but I didn't get caught up in it. I instead looked inside and I said, hey, I need to be mindful of what it is that I'm feeling, why I'm feeling it. Is it positive that I'm feeling it, or is it negative? And I need to deal with me first before I move forward in whatever the situation is. All right, so be mindful of how we're feeling, but don't get caught up in it. Deal with it. Don't suppress it. If you suppress it, it's going to come out in other ways, and then it leads to projection. A lot of times relationships end up imploding or exploding, however you look at it, because two people don't realize they're projecting each other's negative projections onto one another, and then something that could have been so great is now destroyed, and now you have two people who had hopes of being one whole are now broken. and they have to go through another process, you know. And then who knows if those two people or those individuals involved will ever, because it's not just simply left only or relative to eros type of relationships, professional relationships, friendships. Two people end up broken, or multiple people end up broken over something that happened because they're projected into that, and they never ever stop and deal with what happened on the inside. I was having a conversation with someone, a professional, and the lady was talking about how, you know, someone had did something to her. I said, because I teach conflict resolution as well, I do workshops on it. And so I talked to her about the conflict resolution. I said, you know what? That's conflict resolution. And you're in an apartment that's supposed to be important in doing those things. Why not just talk to the individual? The response I got, I was not real happy with. It wasn't positive. But I understand that's where she's at, so there's no judgment. April's Positive Passion, how you doing? And so there's no judgment on a person for being wherever they're at, because sometimes in the person that acknowledged that, I'm just feeling some type of way, you know. And so at least it was acknowledged. And so later on down the road, that person can face that situation when it's positive for them. But sometimes we got to be mindful that we need to put ourselves out of the way and move ourselves into the way of positivity in a mature manner. Because if we get caught up in feelings, we won't be able to see, hey, you know what, I need to deal with this right now, right away, and remove myself from the emotion and act in a mature, positive, forward, progressive manner. But it takes a mindset, and sometimes it takes people to let us know that in a loving way as well. That's why it's very important to have people around you that want nothing from you but to see you succeed, because they'll let you know. And people that really want to see you succeed, they're going to stay regardless of what's going on with you, and they're going to push you forward in a way that's positive, in a way that's not going to hurt you as well, in a way that's not going to hurt you. So we got to be mindful of that when we're seeing ourselves in these life situations, and we're in the process of getting a grip, so that we can OODA loop that thing, observe, orient, decide, and so that we can act. And as we act, we don't get, you know, negatively caught up in the way it feels, or necessarily caught up in the way it looks, because sometimes the way things look is not always the way it is, you know. False evidence appearing real. So if it feels funny and it make us fearful, how is it looking? Is it real? All right, so let's be mindful of those things. Slim T Diva, how you doing? Let's be mindful of those things, so that as we are moving forward in our OODA loop, in our life, in a very positive way, that we can come out golden. One thing I'm going to add, and I'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but before I say that, use intuition. God gave it to you for a reason. That voice is on the inside of you. Learn to refine it. One time I took, and it was over a course of time. It was longer than a day. I took more than a day. I took many weeks, and I really wanted to figure out how to define that voice, that intuitive voice that tells us something. And everyone will be able to describe that voice if you've actually taken time to learn to hear it. There's a difference between our voice and that divine voice that's inside of us, that is speaking to us. There's a difference, but we have to really look inside and determine. I will tell you this, because everybody has to go through their process, and everyone has to look at it in a way that they can get it. I will tell you this, and I hope and I pray that this particular bit of information helps you in a positive way, and helps you define the voice that is divine versus the voice that's your own. Your own voice will be very loud compared to the divine voice from within. Your voice will be loud, and it's very distinctly different than the voice that is divine, and that's intuitive, and that's within. So be mindful of that, and I hope that helps you be able to define that voice that we should listen to in ways that's going to help us move forward progressively and positively with love and with light and in life. Okay, so be mindful of that. Use that intuition and not projection. There's a very distinct difference between the voice that's projecting, which is our voice and loud, and the voice that's divine and from within. But don't get caught up. Don't get caught up. OODA loop that thing. Get a grip. And we're going to talk about a little bit later on about fire. I was doing a workshop last week, and the workshop, I ended up going into fire and what fire does. And we talked about it last Sunday in the conversation, What's Going On, COC. We talked about it in short form, and I'll revisit it because this is a boot camp. It's going to be over a course of at least 3 months, because it's very important these things get into us as a collective body. Fire is very important. People don't go through the fire. People don't go through the fire. They're not willing to go through the fire. And even as I'm talking about it and thinking about it, the song Through the Fire is in my mind. So go through the fire. There's a reason why things go through fire and they come out better on the other end. Those things, that swords, machinery, things that are built strong. And fire not only is used to build things, but fire takes things through a process to purify. And so that's very important. Go through the fire. And in relationships, whether it's whatever type, if people can last through the fire, that's when you know you got something. But don't be upset because things are hot or hard. It's the fire that burns those impurities. It's the fire that takes people out of your life. It's the fire that removes things that are impure and unbalanced and unhealthy, unwealthy in your life. It's that fire that takes those things away from you and leaves what's for you and leaves room for what's for you. So don't be mad at the fire. Use the fire. All right, use the fire and allow it to burn away those things and those people, not only externally but internally, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, that are bad for you, so that you can have what's destined for you and what's great for you and what's positive for you and what's powerful for you. All right, so this is Darryl Jones, Life Warrior. Welcome to and thank you for showing up to the djlw boot camp. We're gonna do some more of this, and we're gonna have this for a few more months to come. God willing, tomorrow is not promised, but I pray that I'm here with you all for weeks and months and years to come. And I pray that you are here with me. And so feel free, if you want to join the Justice League. It's for everyone. The only thing that's required is that you bring positivity and an open mind to grow internally, externally. All right? The Justice League. We live in the power of life. So join me, join us, and meet the team. All right, thank you for coming to the djlw boot camp. All right, I'm gonna open it up for questions. I got a few minutes. I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, but if you guys got any questions or any things that you want to ask, throw it out. I'll give you a few minutes. Yes, Life with Tiffany. Observe, orient, decide, act. And that acronym, there's a lot of things that we use in the military, and we talk about it in military aspect, but these things are very positive, and they can be applied to life in different ways, and not just to military action, not just to combat action or to combative type of perspectives. They can be, interjected in ordinary, regular, everyday life. Business. If you observe, orient, decide, and act, you can figure out what it is that you need to do in order to get around that obstacle quick, or how you can scale faster. I'm in that process, learning to scale. I'll be transparent, learning to scale, learning business things. We got to be mindful of that. And one thing that I noticed, and I'm gonna talk about us as people, a lot of times we're not willing to reach out and connect and things like that because of a risk of being vulnerable or whatnot. But it's okay. Discern someone's spirit, reach out, take a risk. Take a risk. And men, we don't do that. Men do not do that as much as women. Women network, and my hat is off to you ladies. You guys network quick, fast, in a hurry. You do it a lot. You do it a lot faster than men, and you are able to see things a lot faster in that aspect than men. And that's very powerful. And so I try to take that example that women set doing that, and I see it every day in life. Look at social media. You drive down the street and look at women who work together, Women Unite, all these various different initiatives and things like that. So it's very powerful that we look at examples when they're being set for us and utilize them. There's nothing wrong with that. Network. Hey, how's it going? T Johnson 8. And women, there's also power in the way that men do things. We got to take a look at those things, network, and look at what the examples, the positive examples that men use, and take those things and use them together and move forward. And that's just a very positive thing, to be able to look at one another and see the positive, or look at someone and say, hey, that wouldn't work for me necessarily. Don't judge them on it, but hey, that wouldn't work for me necessarily. I don't want to do that. And then just keep it moving and take what's positive. Eat the meat and throw away the bones if you eat meat. All right. I'm sure all of you have heard that. So observe, orient, decide, act is something that we use in the military, but can be applied to everyday average life. So, all right, we're gonna wrap this conversation up. How you doing, man? We're gonna wrap this conversation up. And if you guys got any other questions or any thoughts, throw them out there. Give you a couple of minutes. Because I don't want to talk your heads off. I speak for a living, so I enjoy not talking sometimes. Y'all sitting out there, I know y'all got some stuff y'all want to say. As many people is on this call or on this live. Y'all probably having conversations right now. Y'all ain't listening. Y'all ain't paying attention. No, I'm just messing with you. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Hey, just want to say thank you guys for showing up today. I love you. I appreciate you. This is djlw sending you love, light, and blessings of life. Hit that easy button today. Every day, accomplish something for yourself and for your goals. I love you. God bless. See you in the ether.